Hi.
Hi, my name is Ina, and I am actually from Europe, and I'm joining here, and I have 8:45, and it's Friday night, so I am really
Yeah.
confused. No, I'm just a little background about myself. I'm from Austria, and I'm living currently in Sweden to do my master's, and I'm doing it in innovation and design. And I'm starting up now to think about my master thesis, and I'm getting like ready to start off. And the topic that I am writing about is actually the circular economy and circular business models. And we're actually trying to research the consumer part in a circular business model, because we see that companies are already starting and trying to do a lot, but if, as we already realized, like the consumer doesn't do their part, the whole model will never work. So we also want to research that part. But so yeah, that's like the reason why I'm here. But yeah, I think coming from Europe and growing up in Europe is maybe a little bit different than in the US, because a lot of the things, for instance, that you mentioned here now, that were things that were like normal for me. So like I would never think about using paper towels all the time for something. Like this is not, maybe this is also just me and my family that already grew up quite in a conscious way, but we never had that we would use paper towels. Paper towels was something like, now when I started living in Sweden and I had a roll of paper towel, I had that for a year and I used maybe two. And yeah, so this was like also a little bit mind opening for me, and then yeah, to see that it's not everywhere like this. And I'm already thinking that I'm not doing good, but in comparison to other people, I'm doing quite good, I guess. But for instance, we have like this Vtex, we call it, like a kind of thing that you make wet, and then you just put the dirt away with that, and then you just wash it, and then you use that maybe for a month, maybe for 2 weeks, depending on what you clean with it. But that also works. You can even throw it in the washing machine and then use it again. And then also, what I really liked about what Andrea said about the beauty products and about the tampons, um, this is something that I also just started like a year ago, but there's now all these period cups that are getting more and more popular. I don't know how it is in the US, but in Europe it is. And I've also started using that now. And I have to say, like, this is so easy and this is so good. And it is also so much easier than with tampons. And it's just like you can use it forever, and you just cook it and clean it like I don't know. Yeah, and then just use it again, and you will never throw tampons away anymore. And you can reduce so much waste. Like I've really realized that it's so much less waste. And then of course, like people are writing in the chat, like the steel water bottles. I always have my water bottle with me. I never buy one. Um, yeah, and then also I bring my bags when I do grocery shopping. That's also, I never put, for instance, when you, I don't know how it's in the US, but I, like when I buy tomatoes or when I buy bananas, I never put it in an extra plastic bag that is there, because I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna wash the apple at home anyways. Like, why do I need to put it in an extra plastic bag? Like this is also something that I never do, for instance. And I never use aluminum foil or plastic foil. I just put it in plastic or glass containers and then put that in the fridge. So yeah, I don't know. This is just something that I do, and I thought that was normal, but I guess it's not.
Well, thank you for joining us on a Friday night, your time,
Yeah,
first
thank
of
you.
all. Very good. Yeah, it's a big problem in the US for sure. It's the disposable culture for sure. I agree. Europe doesn't have as big of, especially not paper towels. Like you said, it's kind of this post-1950s industrial manufacturing mentality that has really taken over, and everything's convenience and about the cheapest item. And of course, it's only cheap up front. It's not cheap in the long run. Yeah, so we should strive to be more like you, Ina. Thank you and for studying circular economy too. That it takes the next generation to change the world they inherited. So excellent. Thank you. Does anyone else want to share? Okay. So my presentation moved on to the plastics problem here. So let's talk about this because it is a huge problem. It's a big problem. So we're probably all familiar with this, okay? We've all probably heard the stats that by 2040, 2050, there'll be more plastic in the ocean than fish. That might be happening right now. This poor turtle is going to eat this plastic thinking it's food somehow, or a jellyfish. You know, it's a huge, enormous problem. So did we know this? I'm going to just kind of explore some facts on plastic. Oops. So less than 10% of all plastics ever made have ever been recycled. I didn't know that until, I'll share the source with you on the next slide, until on the next couple slides. That's pretty sickening because we're all told that recycle and that'll be great. But unfortunately, less than 10% of the plastics that have ever been made have ever been recycled. So the sea turtle has a lot of company in his or her water there. And then 40% of plastic is packaging material, which means it's used once and then it's thrown away. Now, plastics, it's an amazing material. It's waterproof, it doesn't break, it doesn't biodegrade. That's amazing. But those properties make it, you know, make it a good food preserver, but then again, when it's used once and thrown away, it becomes a huge problem because it doesn't break down. So it's about like this cultural reshift and rethink of like, especially since we're running out of oil, can plastics be used for a better purpose, for a more reusable long-term purpose? Buildings could be made out of plastic. We don't need to have these single-use bags floating around our environment for the purpose of convenience. And the problem is that's not always the consumer's choice. In fact, it's usually not the consumer's choice, it's manufacturers. So this is another graph from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Again, I highly recommend checking them out, the New Plastics Economy. So here we go, 80% virgin feedstock, that is oil. I'm sorry, 98% virgin feedstock is oil, which is used to make 78 million metric tons, okay, of plastics. So what happens to that? 40% gets put in a landfill, 32% joins the turtle in the ocean and the beaches, and 14% gets incinerated. That could be called a good thing for its energy recovery, but of course it also exhausts all these pollutants into the air. So of all these 78 million tons, 14% is collected for recycling. 4% losses, which means cascaded recycling, is 8%, which means the new recycled product is it's not the same product. 2% closed loop recycling means a plastic bottle became a plastic bottle again. Cascaded recycling means it's downcycled in some way because the plastic does lose its integrity after it's recycled. So it becomes maybe a less durable plastic. So it's downcycled essentially. So on the bottom of all our plastic containers are those little numbers and the 3 recycling arrows. And they have numbers from 1 to 7. But unfortunately, only numbers 1 and 2 are easily, readily recyclable. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 plus, styrofoam is considered one of those. A lot of these plastics are technically recycled in a lab, but unless it's municipally available for recycling, it's not going to get recycled because consumers are not going to send their plastic packaging back to some lab. So again, that's a huge problem. So I highly, highly recommend, there's this really great Frontline episode on PBS called The Plastic Wars. It aired in March, and there's been some articles about it recently. And I highly encourage you to watch it because it takes a deep dive into essentially the lie that we have been told about recycling from big oil manufacturers. And so I just want to encourage you to go watch it for yourself or research this for yourself. You'll find yourself getting mad and shouting at the screen because if all these plastics aren't even recyclable, why are they being put into the market in the first place? How is that okay for a manufacturer to put these plastics into the market when it can't be recycled and it's going to be used once and end up in the ocean? So that's a role of policy and government. So, you know, I didn't want to dive in. There's just too many facts. So I just wanted you to go do research for yourself. And this is a really great documentary that I recommend. But there is hope, okay? So there is hope. Just like Ina in Europe, there is hope. So another really great company that I follow is Circle Economy. And this was a recent blog that they published, The Untapped Business Potential of Reusable Packaging. And here's their site at the bottom here. But it's a business potential, and there's potentially a lot of money in it, and it requires collaboration and it requires cooperation between stakeholders and different businesses. But it is possible, and it requires this consumer shift, this consumer rethink. And so that's up to brands and companies to educate their consumers on what's out there and what's available. So again, this is another, in addition to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, Circle Economy. Here's their website, whoops, circleeconomy.com. Circle-economy.com is a truly great resource for cities too. So, okay, so products that are replacing quote unquote traditional plastic packaging with compostable or very little packaging. This is a new trend out there, and it's an exciting new trend. So for example, and I left it generic, there's great brands out there that we can feel free to endorse, but I just kind of left it generic. So for example, shampoo bars versus shampoo bottles, or the good old bar of soap versus a bottle of body wash. It does the same job. It comes in a paper wrapping that is compostable or recyclable, but it doesn't have the plastic packaging. It doesn't have the pumps, all these things that are very hard to recycle. Again, laundry detergent strips. This is a newer item to market. I've just recently adopted this in my home. These strips of laundry detergent are just concentrated. You grab it, you tear it off, you throw it in your machine, and it dissolves in the water, versus jugs of detergent. Because unfortunately, these jugs, these shampoo bottles, etc., they're not recycled, even though we like to pretend that they are. A block of dish soap versus a bottle of dish soap. So this is another newish product on the market. There's different brands out there who are offering it. And like Ina, I believe, said, good old cleaning rags versus disposable bleach wipes. And Andrea said that too. Disposable wipes, you might think they're compostable, they're made of paper, but they're not. They have a lot of plastic in them. They don't biodegrade. So the single-use bleach wipes that are in huge demand now due to COVID, unfortunately, they just kind of stay in the landfill for a while. So good old-fashioned cleaning rags versus disposable bleach wipes.
I recently, here in South Carolina, I recently partnered with this local grocery store, and they pretty much only support local farmers and butchers. And what they do is like they do bundle packs, and like you'll get okra, like seasonal stuff too, like okra, squash, and all this, and even bread, like $30, and they deliver it to you, and then they reuse all of the paper bags and all the packaging that they use when they come and pick it up the next week or whatnot. But I found that to be very helpful with reducing waste and like seeing like how much plastic that I didn't really need. Like the other person mentioned about all that plastic when you go to the grocery stores and put them in, and I see so many people always there just like, I'm like, why do you have to put that 2 tomatoes in that little plastic? When you go home, you're just going to trash that plastic anyways. because it's not going to be able to breathe. So it's just like, and anyway, so I started being more conscious of that because of this program. So they deliver, and it's supporting the local, the local farmers. And so I find it to be helpful because it's less transportation for goods, that are transporting. For instance, at the grocery store with the California fires, there's a shortage of strawberries, and they didn't look very good. And so then I mentioned it to the guy, like, when are you guys going to get in more strawberries? And the worker said, well, I don't know, because we're not getting any from California because they can't work and pick them because the air quality is terrible. So I don't know when we're going to get strawberries again. And it's like, oh, okay. So now I'm trying to get hip on like seasonal harvest and things that are more so grown now, not the ones that are with a lot of hormones, or like you see these strawberries that are like big as apples. It's like, what? How? So that's some system that I'm just recently adapted of reducing my waste and supporting the local businesses as well.
Excellent. And then here in the chat, Vivi's been active. Bulk store once a year, all the soap and detergent supplies for the household, and refill them into glass dispensers, bottles. That's excellent. Also helps you not have to worry about running out or adding to shopping list every few months. Very good. On the plastic bag mention, plastic bags should not go in your recycling container, unfortunately, because they jam up the sorting machines, and then workers actually have to stop the machine, climb into the machine. I've seen videos on this, and kind of take these bags out of the machine that have jammed up the sorting. So fortunately, most Targets accept plastic bag recycling. Most of your major grocery store chains, when you walk in the door somewhere, there should be a big receptacle to, and it's your grocery bags, it's your bread bags, those fruit bags that you're talking about, pretty much any plastic bag, and as well as plastic film, like the saran wrap, if you will. You can put all those in your plastic bag recycling, and then every time you go to Target or Walmart or the grocery store, you just drop that in the receptacle instead of putting it in your recycling container. And then another service and product I wanted to mention was right literally when the WHO declared the pandemic declared it to be a pandemic on March 12th. I was supposed to host this in-person event on March 13th in Los Angeles with a wonderful local company called The Refillery. And what they do is, here in Los Angeles, they're present at farmers markets. They also do house calls and business calls, and they will go refill your household cleaning supplies and your shampoos and etc. So you just use that same container over and over again. And unfortunately, that event never happened because they canceled it due to COVID. But now we're hosting online workshops. So, and then here in the chat, I'll just read some of these. Plastic bag, paper bag from grocery store home, or use it as a trash bag. Excellent. I also use paper bags. Like when I'm planting on my balcony, I'll put a paper bag out to trap the soil, or I cut up paper bags and I put the cookies that I bake on the paper bags. In India, a company called Cuppable, first brand that designs, manufactures, recycles drinkware. That's excellent. Yeah, so something that has become the truth for America is, unfortunately, a lot of these circular economy advancements of the world are taking place in Europe and Asia and elsewhere, but America is slow to adopt. So, but we're changing that, every day here. So thank you for chatting and participating with that. So just like one other couple points here, and then we'll wrap it up because I want to keep it within an hour-ish, which is pretty much now. So food waste. I had mentioned that my 3- and 5-year-old, they'll touch it, they'll throw across the table. Like, as much as I try to save food, save the leftovers, eat it tomorrow, once it's all gummed up and gummied up with those little fingers, you don't save that. And I don't have a dog to give it to, so. So there are ways so according to the FDA, food waste is estimated at 30 to 40% of the food supply. So of those local farms, the strawberries you mentioned, a lot of those strawberries, because they can't get picked due to the wildfires, they're going to just rot on the vine, unfortunately. But that was money and labor invested by the farmers and the farm workers. So according to the United Nations, food waste alone causes 10% of greenhouse gases. If we can compost it, get it back into the soil, then it grows new food. That's a wonderful thing. But unfortunately, not every municipality offers compost. But these are two, very good, compostnow.org and litterless.com, where to compost and compost services, that share in the United States how to find local composting services in your area. So I highly encourage you to just, use that to figure out how to compost your food. In my household, I do my best. It doesn't always succeed, but I try to implement what I call our no food left behind policy. And I invented that policy when George Bush was president and he had the no child left behind educational policy. So I adopted that internally as my no food left behind policy. So what that means is you let what's in your fridge sort of dictate what you're going to make that day. So if you have leftovers, you need to eat those leftovers. If you have some food that's on its way out, you kind of need to make a recipe to utilize that food before it goes bad. And so it's really understanding what is in your fridge, what's in your cupboards, keeping your fridge and cupboards, somewhat tidy so you know what's in there, and you let what needs to be eaten now sort of dictate what you eat for that day. So that's something we do. Again, this is the second in a series of free monthly workshops I'm offering. We'll be offering the Circle Design Workshop again, because that was very popular and people are very interested in it. And I want to say thank you for taking part in our workshop series. Eating food that is over the due date, most of the time still totally fine. Yes, that Best By date. Yes, you can eat food beyond the Best By date, especially if it's in a can or a thing. So we do encourage you, please follow us on the gram. We have a small audience, we're building it organically. And coming back to everyone. Yeah, so I just want to say, thank you so much. I appreciate it. This recording will be available up on our site here in the next couple of days, and I'll email it out to all of you. And for everyone being a change maker in your local community, the world is in our hands. It's up to us. We have our choice and we're doing the best we can. So consumers truly have the power, and that's how we create a more circular home. So thanks again, everyone. Unless there's any final comments, I appreciate all your time and joining and your input. It's been amazing. So